Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans. They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
Hello, Mavs fans. Welcome to another episode of Pod Maverick After Dark. Joined, as always, by my co-editor over at Mavs Moneyball and podcast host, Josh Bowe. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing good. Looks like we got a third host today. Uh-oh. Can't hear you. I think Baby might have kicked something out of the... I cannot hear you. Okay. I think Kirk's newborn might have maybe kicked something out, or a microphone got moved. Hold on, we're working on it. We're getting Kirk back in. I cannot hear you. Still okay. This is the joy of podcasting. Kirk is going to work through some technical difficulties here. So let me just filibuster a bit until we get there. Oh, we're going to try Kirk one more time.
My mic is working.
Okay, now you're working.
Yeah.
Okay, don't know what happened there.
Oh, I hit the mute button on my mic, but it didn't register.
Okay. Well, we got three people on the podcast tonight. You guys can hear Kirk's little one. So yeah, Mavericks win 121-115. Really bizarre game. A lot of fouls, a lot of stoppages, a lot of challenges, a lot of reviews. Didn't really have a good flow. Both teams shot 29 free throws. So it was kind of a weird game, but it was also one the Mavericks kind of needed to win. I know the Rockets were 8-6 coming into this game, but they were 0-5 on the road. And when you think about it, they had the 2 days off before the Clippers game and then 2 days off before this game. If they would have went 2 days off, loss, 2 days off, loss, you don't get a lot of breaks like that in the NBA schedule. You have to take advantage of when you get those days off. So all things considered, I think this, obviously wasn't a clean game, but a game they needed to win, and they won.
Well, and then there's the additional point of the fact that they've played precisely one home game before tonight in the last 2 weeks. They played at home on November 10th, and then they played – who did they play? Who did they play at home? I can't – but they played so many road games broken up by this long just sort of odd break. Like, it was so weird during the Thanksgiving break where it's like we're not – like, we don't have to cover the Mavs. Like, this is weird.
Yeah.
And so we're here, and this game happened tonight, and it was nice to see some energy. I really had felt like those two Los Angeles games that I didn't get a chance to talk about the first one, but up until like the fourth quarter of that game against the Lakers and then the entire Clippers game was just so awful. It was,
and then the Kings game before that was also bad. So.
Yeah, that was the game the Mavericks lost where they got ran off the floor at home. That was really something. And so it's just like the Mavericks needed one of these games where they looked at least marginally energized and good. It was nice to see Derek Lively back into the mix.
Yes.
They obviously got crushed at certain points, but it was one of these games where I felt pretty confident if just certain things would happen. And, you know, I wrote about this in the recap. And again, I'm always like very reluctant to criticize Kyrie too much because I don't want crazy people to give me lectures on how he's the greatest hooper of all time. When I watch game to game stuff, I respond to game stuff. And one of the things that I've sort of had to figure out about the Kyrie element is that he is at his age and how he plays, particularly with sort of the role the Mavericks have him in. He's kind of the ultimate X factor where he's going to do something insanely amazing at some point in the game. It's a matter of when. So as Mark Followell sort of closed out the broadcast, he was 2 of 11 at one point and finished 8 of 22. So he went, 6 of 11, his last 11 attempts, which, I think he had 2 or 3 go in and out that just weren't great. And he was really something. And if the Mavericks would have had that earlier in the game, I think they might have ran Houston straight off the floor. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, because Houston just doesn't have they're a much improved team, but they win games, they win street fights. They're a defensive-minded team. They don't have the firepower to keep up with the Mavericks team firing on all cylinders. So, like, the way they got into this game was they kind of mucked it up, and Kyrie wasn't shooting well. But, like, still, Kyrie and Luka are the 2 best players on the floor. So that advantage – as soon as both of those guys were clicking at the same time, which is what happened in the second half, it wasn't as much of a game after that kind of bad third quarter. But yeah, Kyrie, he was on the floor without Luka toward the end of the third, and the Rockets got it to like a 9-point game, and I think they got to the fourth where it was like a 5 or 6 point game, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but I feel like it is. Like the Rockets were trying to run the Mavericks off the floor in the third quarter. And I think Kyrie got to the line 2 or 3 times, made 4 free throws, made a couple shots, started to heat up, and then of course played well in the fourth. But that was like the stretch where if they didn't grab control of the wheel because the car was spinning off the road, you get down 9 after having a 14-point lead in the first half. That could have gotten really ugly. And we've seen with this Mavericks team that things can snowball when things aren't going right for them. So for Kyrie to be able to steady the wheel, that kind of saved the game because then Luka comes back into the fourth and he was awesome all night. And that was it. There was nothing really else the Rockets could do at that point.
Yeah, and watching Luka kind of start to finish. So there was a extraordinarily stupid online conversation yesterday about catch-all metrics and how Luka is not just overrated, as in maybe he's a 9, he's like a 7 to 15th best NBA player. It was Luka is a wildly overrated NBA player and is at best an average starter. Like, one of the dumbest conversations. Like I don't understand a lot of advanced stats, and frankly, I'm too old to try. I don't like there will be no math, but I'm smart enough to understand that like certain things I'm not going to disregard. So for Luka to come out and basically have like the ultimate box score game with 41 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, and here's the real kicker: 0 turnovers, was really fun the day after a very stupid conversation. And I know for a fact it was a stupid conversation because I know a lot of advanced stats guys, and it's just one of these things where if you want to have a conversation about Luka maybe not being a top 5 player in the world, which I think he is, it's a much more interesting debate to say, hey, here's a guy who's maybe the 7th or 10th best player in the world, because then you're actually talking about what his weaknesses and things like that are. And that's a little more, nuanced and where you can get into the actual basketball type stuff. But tonight we saw a player who's in pretty much control of the game. Like, I still think he shoots a few too many step back threes, but the 3, I think he was 3 of 8 from 3 tonight.
3 of 10.
Right, 3 of 10. Okay. He took a couple of bad ones late. But he did something tonight that frankly, he's not done very much this season, which was get to the effing basket. And it was getting to the basket with the purpose of scoring and not just foul hunting. Like he's been kind of driving me crazy where he's trying to get these fouls on people where he gets them on his back hip and then he slows down like he's going to get a bump. And like, he's just not getting that call. He's just not. He's too big. He's too strong. He's not Damian Lillard at 170 pounds. So watching him just decide, okay, I'm going to go score on these morons at the rim felt very 2019, 2020 Luka.
Yeah, this is something I think I might write about when we're done recording here. He is at the lowest rim rate of his career so far this season, and it's not even close.
I
Like
think that's
it's
intentional. I really
yeah,
do. I think he's saving his body, and I think he's foul hunting too much.
yeah, and he's shooting way more threes, and he's making them, which is kind of leading to him shooting them more.
Which I think is a fool's
Right,
gold over time, right?
right.
Because he's really slowed down the last 5 or 6 games relative to where he started.
Yeah, and tonight it was. Yeah, you're right. It was he made 9 shots in the paint. He was 6 of 7 in the restricted area. Like by far the most. I think that's by far the most makes he's had in the restricted area in a game since like maybe one of those first couple of games of the season. Like, which is great because that's when he's at his best. I thought in the fourth quarter the team was. It was funny because the Rockets put Sengun on Derek Jones Jr. instead of Derek Lively because they were just hoping to hide Sengun defensively on the corner, and you got Jabari Smith Jr. that can guard Lively and is more capable of rotating near the basket and being a more active defensive player. Then maybe you just stick Sengun in the corner so they can't attack him. And I thought it was very smart. Luka went right at Sengun with Jones Jr. as a screener in the pick and roll. Got Jones a wide open 3 because Sengun wasn't going to run out and switch at the 3-point line. Then they didn't do that the rest of the quarter, and I was kind of like, okay, what's going on? But what they did do was they had Kyrie. I mean, it looked like the 2016 NBA Finals for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, Kyrie was screening for Luka with the purpose of forcing that switch, getting Fred VanVleet onto Luka, and it was like Fred VanVleet's a pretty stout defender considering his size, but it doesn't matter. Like the size disadvantage, the height disadvantage was too much, and Luka was it was like taking candy from a baby. I mean, he was just getting that switch and just automatic in the paint, and scoring.
And it's sort of my opinion. I don't have anything to back this up other than how I feel about the game of basketball. But I think if you get to the rim enough times, you will start to get those free throw calls.
I got him tonight.
How many did he shoot tonight?
Well, Luka shot 9, which I know is not a ton, but that's still not bad.
Kyrie shot 9 too. That was pretty amazing.
They shot 29 as a team.
Yeah,
which is pretty good.
So if like for me, and I know there's like probably a standard for people out there, but like I want to see Luka getting to the line fairly regularly. But if he's gonna do that, he's got to stop trying on the cheap foul call. I'm not interested in that sort of stuff. Particularly once you get past someone, just go to the rim, make them stop you. I know he doesn't want to get hurt, and I do kind of appreciate that because it's a very long season. But anyway, so all right. It's been about 12 minutes of the show. Thanks so much for joining us. Sorry that this got off to a little bit of a rocky start. Can't wait till I forget to edit that out, and I'm just going to post that up in our normal podcast feed. So that'll be funny. For those of you who are listening to the show via audio podcast, for those who are listening to the show via the live show right now, we'd really appreciate it if you could head down and hit the like button on this particular stream. We would also appreciate it if you would consider subscribing to Pod Maverick. We're at just about 2,100 subscribers. We're trying to get to 5,000 by the end of the year, kind of an arbitrary number, but it could be fun. And when the show is over, if you would go leave us a comment on the actual YouTube itself and not just the live stream, that would be helpful as well. I really like checking those. I've been kind of bad about checking them this week, but I'll try to get better as Josh and I get more into the groove. All right.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. One of the things I love about Indeed is it makes hiring all in one place so easy and streamlined so I can spend more time on the rest of my business. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
All right. So thanks for letting me shill for a minute. Just it's something that's important that I need to do, and Josh and I need to do for every show. So the Mavericks made a change tonight in their starting lineup where they moved Derek Jones Jr. to the bench, and they played Josh Green as the starter. What, if anything, did that do, in your opinion?
I think it changed things up in the right way because I was actually wanting to write about it because the starting lineup is by far the most played 5-man group that the team has so far this season. And it's been one of their worst lineups considering how much it's played. It's played, I'm going to pull it up right now. Well, no, I mean, heading into this game, yeah, they played about 219 possessions according to Cleaning the Glass. The second most played 5-man lineup is at 71. So by far the most played lineup they have. Minus 2.8 net rating per 100 possessions. Defense is not bad, 111.5, which would get you maybe around average, right around that league average, maybe slightly above league average, which is exactly what you want with a team that's as offensively talented as Mavericks. But the offense just was doo-doo, 108.7 per 100 possessions. And I think the Derek Jones, it's Luka, Kyrie, and then, three I don't know how to describe this. Grant Williams is a shooter, but he's not necessarily someone that's going to do things with the ball. I mean, it's three players that basically have to have their offense spoon-fed for them. And I understand that's basically describing everyone on the roster that's not Luka and Kyrie. Maybe, Tim Hardaway Jr., you can maybe add to that list. But I think the spacing with Jones Jr., it kind of run its course. They did some fun things. He was hitting some threes, but he was in a little bit of a slump, and it just with Grant and Jones both hitting slumps kind of at the same time, it just didn't make a lot of sense, I thought, to keep going. And they put Josh Green in, and funny enough, I think the Green move, again, it was an offense move because I think with Lively and Grant Williams on the floor, I think Kidd is at least confident enough in his defense to be okay. So it's almost like you don't necessarily need Jones Jr. that much if the offense is going to suffer that much. So Green kind of splits the difference. He hasn't had a good season defensively, but he's still more of an active offensive player and a better spot-up shooter, I think, than Jones. And then also our staffer Matthew pointed in Slack, it's twofold. So not only do you get a little bit of an offensive punch with your starting lineup that had been kind of a little stagnant, but now Jones Jr. coming off the bench can play with Tim Hardaway Jr. and Kyrie and Powell if Powell's playing, or Rashawn Holmes. And now you've got a better defender to put in with those lineups instead of what they were running, some like Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Green, Dwight Powell type lineups with the second unit, and those were just a disaster. So I think it balanced the starting unit and the bench a little bit more offensively and defensively. And I think it's probably I would think it's going to stay. But I just think it gives the Mavericks just a little bit more balance on both ends of the floor throughout a game instead of maybe being too defensive focused to start, too offensive focused when the subs come in. And now you get a little bit of both. And it seemed to pay off dividends tonight for sure. And it's funny enough, Jones ended up having a great game, bouncing back, coming off the bench. So if he can do that coming off the bench and not necessarily needing to play with Luke and Kyrie exclusively 100% of the time, I think it's a move worth doing. And you just got to see, just ride that out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So it's been a little bit in the chat here during the presser. It seems Jason Kidd went off on Tim McMahon, told him to write some positive shit.
Dude, they lost 4 out of 6 games.
Right. And they looked terrible in those like they weren't,
They had two blowouts. Wait, 1, 2, 3. So of those 4 losses, 3 of them were blowouts. Like, I don't know. What's the positive stuff to happen?
I mean, this sort of stuff with this sort of stuff with Kidd is what it is. Like, I kind of find it funny when he's punchy because he's so often reserved and boring. And what's very clear, and I mean this seriously, he has spent a lot of time reading shit on Twitter. Kidd has.
Oh yeah, he's very online.
He has seen the criticisms and the the Mavericks didn't just come to the conclusion to play Holmes more. Didn't just come to the conclusion that they should start Josh Green. Head coaches are stubborn people. Kidd is extremely stubborn, but I also think he's extremely susceptible to the local chatter. Just very, very sure of that. And as all our coaches, like Rick Carlisle used to do the same thing to Tim Cato fairly regularly. Anyway, it's really fun. Funny to me but it's fine. Like, what you should be doing as a coach and as a team that's got this many new guys is really trying to find what works. So I don't have a problem with them switching the lineup.
Yeah, this is what they're supposed to do at this point of the season.
And our friend is Talk Franco wrote a real long, good piece today about the Mavericks defense, and he and I exchanged a couple of DMs in regards to it. The Mavericks are just behind the current meta for team building. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
What do you call it?
Yes, no, that's right. No, you're right.
I've not played a first-person shooter with.
No, you nailed it, man. You nailed it.
But it's like they're behind the curve. In 2019, 2020, they were fairly certain that they were light years ahead of the league when they started 16-5 and discovered 5-out basketball. What they soon figured out was, and this is by the end of like the 2021-22 season, was that they were behind the curve. And then by the end of last year, it was almost so far behind they don't know what they were doing. And when I say they were behind, the meta at that point, and you look at the Denver Nuggets, the champions for what you try to emulate, and the Nuggets are huge at the 3, 4, and 5 positions and extraordinarily skilled at all of those positions. The Mavericks improved their skill this offseason. They improved their size at center, but they are still so small that we're going to be coming in here throughout the season bitching about it. They're not fixing it overnight. I don't care if Maxey comes back because Maxey's counting on a guy like Maxey is just dangerous at this point.
This is the second season in a row where it's been like, just wait for Maxey to come back.
Right. And I've liked the bursts that Holmes has given, but I don't think that's sustainable. Like, you don't want to put too much on him. They need another big, and they probably won't get it. But what they really need is like a big 4. Because they're playing their 3 and their 4s, the ones that they play are all 6'4" to 6'6". And when you're going up against a guy like Aaron Gordon, who's 6'8" and muscular, it's just, you just can't do much. It is what it is. But this was a nice bounce back game. Our friend, realistically, the frenemy of the show, Matt Moore, who I hope to have on here at some point, is he and I were talking the other night, and the Mavericks are 10-6 and are sort of cruising for a 48-win season. They're going to lose some games horribly, and we're going to be very frustrated. And then they're going to win a lot of games because one of the things the Mavericks are doing this year that they haven't done in years past is beating the teams they're supposed to beat.
Yep.
This was an important win in that regard because they're supposed to beat Houston. I don't care how good their defense is. The Mavericks are better. And in years past, we would see them play down to their opponent. And one of the things I think that Kyrie brings on a night in, night out basis is that little bit of oomph. And then Luka gets going and plays hard. Like, he has another guy to really help buoy him. And it's important for what the Mavericks are doing. And again, 11-6, man.
This is a game they definitely lose last season pre-trade. Like, think about that stretch in the third quarter where Luka was not in the game and Kyrie kind of started taking over and prevented the game from going from a 9-point lead to something worse. He kind of reined it in. Last season before the trade, that would be the Spencer Dinwiddie show. And we saw how bad the Mavericks were when Luka was off the floor and Dinwiddie was running point full time. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think Kyrie gives them a baseline now that he's been fully integrated, now that they were able to kind of recoup some of the depth that they lost to trade for him in the first place, which they couldn't do after they were kind of boned after the trade deadline last season. They just didn't have the bodies. So they've recouped. Williams, Lively, Jones Jr., those aren't the final pieces to the puzzle necessarily, but they're, how many times have I said it? They're significantly better than some of the roster spots that they were occupying, with last season with the guys that they were rolling out post Kyrie trade. So So yeah, the Kyrie, I feel like you're feeling the effects of the Kyrie trade in a much more positive light now because they finally were able to take a summer to address the depth that they lost and let Kyrie be the second best player and let him kind of do what he's really good at, which is, what he's doing now, being second banana and stabilizing lineups when the star is out, because he's had a lot of experience doing that. It's a role that suits him very well with his skill set. So I think you're right. The Mavericks have reached, it's still early. It's still 17 games. We haven't even reached a quarter mark, but I feel pretty confident that there's a baseline of play here where I feel pretty confident in them against the bad teams. And then you roll the dice against the really good ones, but you don't need to be good teams to make the playoffs. There's more bad teams in the NBA than good teams. So that's really all you need to do.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's really worth writing home about here.
Did Grant Williams get Monstarred a week ago?
I mean, I have a theory on Grant Williams, if you'll hear me. It's not fair to Grant. I'm probably wrong. But Grant played amazing. And I think Grant got a little big for his britches. And then Grant stumbled. And now Grant can't get out of the quicksand. I think he will. I'm pretty sure he will be just fine. But he looks useless. Like, he's almost unplayable right now. He's so not good.
I mean, I don't even know. His line tonight makes him look better than he was. Like, he went 0 for 5 and scored 0 points, and he looked worse than that stat line. Like, I might pull clips, like, just maybe not, because people get mad at me for being mean after a win, but it wasn't just that he missed 5 shots. I mean, he missed a wide open dunk. He airballed a wide open 3. He shot another 3 that I think went over the rim and hit the other side of it and bricked it, which is if you've shot a basketball before, you know how hard it is to do that. He wasn't even close on these shots. And that's the part that that's where it goes from, he's in a slump to, he's in his head and you get a little worried about it. But yeah, he seems like the kind of guy that'll turn it around. It's just ooh, I don't know what happened there. That's you had a good theory. He started hot, and then maybe that went a little overboard. I think another good theory is he's playing more minutes per game than he ever has in his career. He's a full-time starter now at the 4. With the Celtics, he was coming off the bench and occasionally being that guy that they would put on, a Giannis or an Embiid to mix things up. But that wasn't his full-time role. Now he's the full-time starting for playing almost 30 minutes a game.
I think that's
he's never done
the real
that.
Toll. That's actually my real take. Is I think he is tired. And friendo, my suggestion for him would be to invest in some cryotherapy. Don't go out on the road. Watch what you eat. Drink a lot of water, because it's not going away. It's really not. The Mavericks need him, and I think that if you're going to get a strong Luka performance, a reasonably good Kyrie performance, you need one of these other Mavericks to have a 15-point scoring game, and I think the Mavericks have a chance to win almost every night.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
that's what you see with Jones having in this game. They just need one of these role players to kind of pop off, because Luka and Kyrie are just. I mean, even Kyrie had a bad game and still found his way to 27 points and no turnovers, 5 assists. These stars are machines. You just got to give them just a little something, and they'll be okay.
Well, I want to talk about one more thing, and then I think we can pivot to the other news of the day, which we're really not going to talk about too much because I don't want to talk about it too much. But Derek Lively is getting an awful whistle lately.
Yes, for sure.
One of the things you and I have batted around in here, and I think you should still write on it at some point, is that Lively is number one. Lively's excellent. He's surpassed everybody's expectations, and the Mavericks are really going to go as far as Lively is able to take them, in the sense of him playing 28 minutes a game. That's significantly difficult, though, when he's getting called. And I'm not a refs guy. I'm just not anymore. I don't care. I don't have time to be too upset about the refs, even though I know a lot of people really want to complain about Scott Foster and whatnot. What the fuck is verticality? What good is it if you're never going to call it correctly? The thing about Lively is that he makes the right defensive play, and he's still getting called for fouls. What is there anything he can do differently other than somehow age up a year?
I don't know. I really don't know. I'd have to go back and watch some of those fouls, but yeah, it really did feel like he was going straight up, and the refs were just kind of like almost pre-anticipating, because he's a rookie, that he was going to make a mistake, and then he didn't, but they already blew the whistle anyway. I'm sure a couple of them, if I watched on replay, maybe he had his arms down a little bit, but yeah, like you said, I mean, it felt like he was straight up and down, and that feels like, that's right out of the Tyson Chandler coaching, but like you feel like that's got to be Tyson written all over it, because he was he was basically the master of that, both his time in Dallas and with the Knicks. So yeah, I don't know. It really affected him, because then he really kind of backed off of Sengun in the second half, and Sengun just
his fourth one
bully balled away.
His fourth one, Sengun went under and around and tried to reverse layup and just missed it. And they waited till it didn't go in. The ball came all the way out, and then they called the foul. And it's just like Sengun just missed the shot. There was no bump. I am impressed by Sengun, by the way.
He's fun. He's fun.
And all right.
Props to Lively for even, with 5 fouls, like, welcome back, Derek Lively. What a difference he makes when he's playing versus that Clippers game where he was out. Like, it is crazy to think that a 19-year-old rookie might be their second most indispensable player on the roster. That feels wild to say, but it's starting to feel like that with how much better they look as a team when he's on the floor.
The Dylan Brooks experience entertained me to no end. There are folks, friend of the show, for a former colleague of ours, Dalton Trigg, was like, this game, this defense, this is why I want Dylan Brooks, why I really wanted Dylan Brooks. And I'm sorry, guys, I don't want Dylan Brooks. Not for 82 games. If you're telling me we're fighting the aliens and we need a defensive stopper, maybe. But Dylan Brooks over 82 games would turn me into a sociopath. He did 2 or 3 things tonight that actively kept them in the game and then pulled them right the fuck back out of it.
He's an foul on the Jones 3-pointer.
That was insane. Derek Jones is 4 feet behind the line and you foul him. Yep. Like that, they might have won the game if he didn't do that with the way they were playing.
Yeah, that was bananas. But yeah, he giveth and he taketh away really, really quickly.
All right, so the last thing we'll talk about, because there's a lot of people in the comments.
Yeah, we have to
talk about it. A majority stake. This is fascinating. A majority stake of the Dallas Mavericks was sold to the Adelson family today. With the interesting, and I don't understand legally how this works, bizarre caveat that Dallas Mavericks governor currently, Mark Cuban, will retain control of basketball operations. Now, my first thought, and I mean this, I tweeted this, my initial thought was, holy shit, Mark Cuban is running for president. With some hindsight, and with talking to, there was a woman that I follow on Twitter who knows a lot about real estate, and then my friend Tyler, who shot me a message. It seems pretty clear to me that this is a foray into Cuban getting a whole bunch of liquid capital at once, meaning cash on hand. And I think the Mavericks have been really, Cuban's talked about, there's been a lot of whispering for years about the Mavericks wanting a new arena. But what this would do, as I understand it, is lay the groundwork for a mixed usage site that Cuban would own, that would be used for more than just basketball games. Now, I could be missing some of the details. Somebody's going to tell me I'm wrong. I'm sorry that I'm wrong in the comments. But this is a really interesting thing. But I don't think that it will have too much, if anything, any effect on the actual basketball, which is what we are interested in watching. What is your take, Josh?
Yeah, I think that part of it remains to be seen, because while it's all well and good right now that the idea is that Cuban, nothing really changes in terms of the hierarchy, and these are just maybe he just needed a money man, so to speak.
Which I think is the case because of the gambling element.
But
legalized gambling is coming to Texas, and this is a matter of when, not if.
Yeah, but also it feels bizarre that someone would spend $3.5 billion for ownership in a basketball team and not want to have a say in how that basketball team is run. So it might sound good now that they're all on the same page and they want Cuban to stay in his role as governor of the team and in charge of basketball ops. But I think it's way too early to just assume that's how it's going to be going forward. But I don't want to speculate because we just don't know.
I want to speculate because I'm a former political operative. Like 3.5 billion
That's a lot
is
of
nothing. It is nothing to this woman. It is 10%. It is 10% of what their wealth is, and they
yeah.
Like that's that is what that's a literal truth. And so I hear what like my man Brian, who I'm sure will come on the next show and maybe you want to talk about it a little bit. I hear what you guys are saying, but like the day to day of the basketball is not going to matter. It is what are you doing? Like how are you operating as a team? And frankly, maybe they're probably going to be operating in some form of partnership in order to get legalized gambling in the mixed site. Where hopefully, not hopefully, but what it seems to be the intention is there will be like betting and gambling in some form in Texas, probably within the next 5 to 10 years. And if you're in on the ground floor on that for a state, 3.5 billion at part of your investment is probably a good one. It probably is. Like, I don't know if anybody knows this, but for sports betting alone, it took New York 1 year to pass the tax receipts that Nevada was getting. 1 year, that's all. And so Texas is an even bigger state. So it's like, this is just one of these things where as much as some of us, I'm kind of ambivalent, a number of our staff members are really kind of functionally annoyed by how much gambling has invaded sports, and I don't blame them. It's something that's coming. So it's like,
yeah, the money's too big.
What do you do? I do want to note, and I don't think the Mavericks are going anywhere. Like, there's been a lot of odd consternation. Are the Mavericks going to move? Are they going to move to Las Vegas? Not tomorrow. Not anytime soon. Like, Dallas is a huge market. Dallas is a bigger market than Las Vegas by legions. Like,
yeah, maybe they use it as a threat to help push their agenda.
But they don't.
But yeah, their lease doesn't expire.
Leasing from the city. That's what I was explained to me today. Was leasing now in this day and age from a city is not as financially, like, some of these people are so rich they don't need to. So leasing for, like, why let the city partake in some of your money when you can keep all of it?
Yeah, and he doesn't have, let's be real, he doesn't have the money to build a giant arena right now.
Yeah.
I know everyone likes to make the jokes about Mark Cuban being broke, but like, he is, he's got different investments. He's big into crypto. You can speculate all you want about how much cash he has on hand, but it's obviously he wouldn't have enough to build this resort. And this is like not new. Like, he's on the record for a few years now saying, I want the next Mavericks arena to be like this casino resort extravaganza. Mm-hmm. So this is part of the plan, and that's like the immediate thing. Like, that's what's going to happen. And they're going to try to build a new arena in Dallas that's going to be gambling focused and things like that. They got time. Again, the lease doesn't expire till 2031. I can't imagine them breaking it, but I don't know the legality or the financial terms of doing that. But I'm sure it's gonna, if they wanted to, it helps a lot more to have this new ownership in your back pocket that can bankroll and eat any costs that you might need to maybe move things along. But yeah, that's the immediate future, and then we'll see what happens after that, because it's it is chump change to this ownership group, but we'll see. He's not the majority owner of the Mavericks anymore. That's just a big change, regardless of how much they want to say that things are going to stay the same. Like, something, it's just different for sure.
Well, there's a lot of people are confused as to where. There's some land that they already own.
Cuban owns land in downtown Dallas.
Yeah, there's a plan in place, and so just to kind of we are probably wrong on some of the specifics. That's okay. One of the things Josh and I have talked about a lot, particularly since the sexual harassment scandal of like 2018, is like, we didn't sign on to talk about some of this shit. And so we will when we have to, but we're going to not avoid it, but it just is not interesting to us. Like, I want to talk about basketball. I even sometimes want to avoid the team drama if we can. Sometimes it's fun. Sometimes you can't avoid it, but it's like, So we're probably gonna stick to basketball unless something becomes a story that we can't ignore. Today was a good example. We have to mention it, and then we're probably gonna move on.
Yeah,
So.
that makes sense. I mean, I don't have a business degree. I'm not smart enough to figure all that stuff out. I have opinions about certain things, but I don't want to share them right now. But
Right.
Otherwise, yeah, this is the part where I'm a little out of my depth for sure. But it's definitely interesting, and it is interesting, and it's noteworthy.
It happened very quickly, it seems like, and it feels like it's a thing that's been in discussions for a while. But there was a story that broke on, what was it? One of the news wires about 2 hours prior to the actual information of, that
Bloomberg, I think.
Bloomberg,
that they were selling their shares
to invest in some sports team, and it was like 2 hours later, it was already done, and it's like, holy cow. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So the Mavericks play back-to-back next. I think that's right. Is that
they
wrong?
do not play back-to-back. They have 2 more nights off, Kirk.
Man, what are we gonna? And then they play back-to-back.
Then they play
Friday,
back-to-back.
Saturday.
Yeah, Memphis, OKC.
Okay, that's going to be interesting because the Memphis game is one they should put away.
They should win by 1 billion points. And
if they don't, we have problems. And then we're back to talk about the Thunder the next night.
And that's a night that'll be a measuring.
That'll be fun. That'll be real fun. Chet Holmgren is the re-rise of the American center between Chet Holmgren and Derek Lively. I am just thrilled.
This is what you asked for.
It is
watching the World Cup. You wanted some beef, American beef.
Our columnist Meta, who is overseas, and I was positing theories to her in the offseason about the decline of the American big man, and this has just these two guys have sort of single-handedly restored some faith. I'm really, really excited to watch these two battle. I wonder if they've ever played each other before. Probably a little bit, but Jalen Duren was on the same AAU team as Lively, and was kind of the better. Like Lively seems to be kind of a late rising prospect compared to so many of these other bigs, which is why we're so excited about him. Mm-hmm. All right. I'm going to come back here in about 15 minutes with our second live show. I hope you guys will click on over to that and wait for me, and I will hop in and we will take some questions and talk about this game. There's still things more I think that we could cover. Our staffer Matthew pointed out to me, like, Tim Hardaway didn't play much in the fourth. That's pretty interesting and probably pretty important. There's a lot of things we could talk about. So hop over to that show and come join me. You can join by clicking in. You can, you don't have to show your face on video. It's always nice to. It's nice to talk some basketball. Brian in the comments joins most nights. We have a lot of fun. So please consider that. And if you are listening on a recording the next day, thank you so much. If you could please leave a review, 5 stars would be helpful. And if you are at all ever interested in reaching out to us about anything, we have the Pod Maverick podcast at gmail.com. Josh, you got anything else before we go?
No, I think I'm good.
Woo! All right, Kirk Henderson and Josh both, thanks so much for hanging out. We will talk to you guys soon. Have a good night. Go Mavs.